Okay, so if we were going to go back and take a look at our project template and maybe refine it a little bit more. So let's go, I'm going to go to the R up here in the corner. I'm going to go to Open. I'm going to open a project, and it opens to the template files, and I'm going to open my metal building template. It doesn't open? If it didn't open correctly, you could have went to the R up in the corner and went to New Project and browse for the template and open the template that way. Since I have mine open, I'm going to Okay, so now that we got our template open, or whatever, it could be a project and we're going to name it a template because we don't want to have anything on it. So let's go to, first off, let's go to title blocks, and let's go down to our sheets, in other words, down here. And I'm assuming everybody has a sheet that is your cover sheet. All right? And on my cover sheet, I have it as A1. It could be your A0, right? I'm not sure what you put yours in at. But make sure it has the right title block on it. Your first floor plan, that should have a title block on it. Reflective ceiling plan should have a title block on it. Elevations should have a title block. Building sections. Details, interior elevations, and schedules. Let's rename this one. In this case, we're going to have interior elevations, but we're going to have more schedules on this next project, so I want that to have its own sheet. So we should be able to right-click and rename this one and just have it interior elevations. Now in this case, when you're renaming these sheets down here, you don't have to have capital letters on those because those names don't come out on a sheet anyway. So I'll just say OK. And then I want to create a new sheet. So I'm going to go back up here to Sheets All, right-click, and create a new sheet. I'm going to make sure it has my title block on it. And then if I go down, it will come up with A9 and it'll say unnamed. Then we'll have to rename that. And we'll rename that to schedules. Then I have my site plan sheet, which should have a title block on it. I have my foundation plan, which should have a title block on it, and an anchorable plan, which should have a title block on it. Okay, so that means that all my sheets are set up so that automatically when I go to a sheet, the right title block is there. Okay. Now let's look at our views. And we have an anchorable plan, all capital letters. We have bottom of footing plan, a view, I should say. And it's not all capitals, but I don't think we'd ever have a bottom of the footing plan. So I'm not going to worry about having that all capitals because I'd never drag that onto a sheet. But if you wanted to, you could change it to all capitals. Foundation plan should be all capitals. Main floor or first floor, whatever you have on yours, should be all capital letters. The roof, potentially we could have a roof plan. So let's right-click on that and rename that one, and rename that roof plan, and say OK. But when it comes up with this message that says, would you like to rename corresponding levels and views, I want you to say no, because otherwise your elevation bubbles that show up on your elevation sheets, it would say roof plan on there, and I just want it to say roof, right? I don't want it to say roof plan on these elevation bubbles. So in this case, I'd say no. Site plan should be all capitals. Again, top of footing, I don't think we'd ever bring that on, so we're not going to worry about that. Ceiling plan, mean level or first floor ceiling plan, should be all capitals. And then on your exterior elevations, did I have you rename those front, back, left, and right, or did you leave them at north, south, east, and west? Okay, do you have them north, south, east, and west? Yeah. That's fine, as long as they're all capitals. Just make sure they're all capital. Then we'll go down a little farther and you'll see schedules. We have a door schedule, should be all capitals. Room schedule, we want to change that to all capitals. Window schedule, we want to change that to all capitals. And that should finish up our views. Not that you couldn't, on a certain project, have a second floor plan or a second floor ceiling plan and all that you could add individually on a set as you go, but at least this way our main project has been clarified just a little bit. Okay, the next thing I want to do is dimensions and leaders. I want to talk about those a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my main floor plan here, and I want to go up to the top and go to Manage. Across the top we have these tabs. Click on Manage. Go find Additional Settings. No, not Additional Settings. I want you to find Units, Project Units. Where is Project Units? Project Units. And under Project Units, you get the length, area, volume, angle, slope, currency, and mass density. And under length, I want you to click on that tab and make sure that 0 feet is suppressed. So anytime you have a dimension that's less than a foot, it'll come out to 9 inches, 8 inches, 6 inches, whatever. It won't have that 0 feet, 6 inches, right? So make sure that that is set on our template to be suppressed in feet. Everybody understand that? Okay, so now we won't have that problem in the future. So we can say OK there. Say OK there. Then let's go to text. Go to Annotation, go to Text. And under Formatting Text, let's click on a 2-segment leader. And let's go Edit the Type. And under Leader Arrowhead, under Graphics, Leader Arrowhead, make sure that it says arrows filled 15 degrees. Yours probably defaulted to open, right? So all you have to do is click in that area and you get several options. And let's make them arrow filled 15 degree. Then we can say OK. Now whenever you start putting leaders on, they will have that one, and that's the one that I kind of reminded you on during the last project that I kind of wanted those filled. That is really the standard for an architectural drawing, is that those arrowheads be filled, and a standard for a commercial drawing is that you don't have arrowheads on your dimensions, but you have a tick mark, right? On single-family projects, sometimes it's an arrowhead on dimensions, but on commercial projects, it's typically a slash mark. Text styles and heights. So if we go to, again, under annotation, click text, and we click the down arrow here, what do you have? You have 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 3/32. We probably want to add a 1/2 inch, right, for our title block. So you could click on any one of those, click on the 1/4 inch, and then edit the type, and make sure that the settings are all correct for it. You'll also notice when you click on these other text heights that you need to make sure that the arrows are also changed to that 15-degree close. So let's do that for every one of our text heights. We could change the styles if we wanted to. Arial is a really readable text style, but on future projects, if you wanted to go in and change, maybe your 1/2 inch text, you want a little more artistic look to it, you could change that. But at this point, we'll leave everything at Arial. When we change that, if I go back to my 1/2 inch Arial text and edit the type, there is an option here to make sure that your let's see, where is that? Oh, that your text could be bolded. So if this is going to be your title block headings, maybe you want to make sure that it's Arial bolded, and you want to put a check mark in there. But you want that to always be bolded. You might also, this is a case where you could say, okay, I want all my text to be Arial, but on my title block cover sheet, I want them to be italics. That would put a slope to them, right? A little bit artistic. You could make sure that your 1/2 inch text is always underlined. You could say that if you wanted to. This is another example of, I know different instructors want maybe the room names to be underlined on a project, where you would create a text that is called room names, and then you could have it underlined, so maybe it's still 1/8 inch text, but it's called room names, and then when you clicked on it, you could always make sure that it was underlined for just the room names. Okay, so that's another adjustment we can make there. Line types. I want to add some different line types. When we were using AutoCAD, we had a line type called Phantom, right? And Phantom is a long dash, 2 short dashes, a long dash, right? Okay, that is not a standard in the Revit file when you go to looking for line type, so let's create that one so that's in our template. So we can go again to Manage, Additional Settings, go to Line Styles, and if it only shows up with one, that just means they aren't open, and you can just click that little box over there and that'll open up all of them. And go to New, and we're going to enter a name. It's going to be, I'm going to call it Phantom. Phantom now shows up in the categories. I want my Phantom lines to be thicker than an object line, so object lines are typically 5. So I'm going to make it probably 7. It's still going to be black. It's not going to be a solid line, so under Line Pattern, click the down arrow there, and we'll use, they don't have anything called Phantom, but a double dash 3/8 is a Phantom line. So double dash 3/8 or double dash 5/8. That just makes that dashes in the middle bigger or shorter. Let's use the double dash 3/8, and then we'll apply that. And then I'm going to add one more line type. Okay, so we got the Phantom one in there now. Let's go back to New again. I'm going to type in one that says that I'm going to call grade line. So on elevations, I kind of like to have a really dark, heavy grade line. So I'm going to type in grade line. It's going to be a line. It drops in again. Instead of a thickness of 1, I'm going to give that a thickness of 8. going to be pretty heavy. Okay, it is going to be a solid line, so all I had to do is change the weight of it, and I'll apply that and say OK. Now by doing that, if you go to Annotation, Detail Lines, and under your line styles, you should now have the phantom. You should now have the grade line in there. Okay, so now there are just some options for you to use. So if I'll just click on this phantom line and say, okay, I'm going to draw that. It's going to automatically come out as that phantom line. Cancel that. Okay. Grid lines. I'm going to have you put one horizontal and one vertical grid line, because when you start a project, you don't really know what the spacing of those is going to be, right? So we're going to put one of each on the sheet, and that way when you open this template for a commercial project, it's going to remind you right away that you need to put in grid lines, right? And since we don't know how many we're going to ever have, I'm just going to have you put one in. So we'll go back to Architecture. We'll go to Grid Lines. I'm going to do the horizontal line first, and I'm going to drag it out. And it put the bubble on the right end instead of the left. All you have to do is check the other end and uncheck this end, and now it's in there in the right spot. And it labeled it 6 for some reason, because the last time I opened this project, it started with or I ended with a 5, I suppose. So in this case, I'll just change that text to an A, because it's a horizontal grid line. Then I'm going to put in one vertical grid line, and I'll start down here so that the bubble ends up in the right spot. It's going to default to putting a B in, but I'm going to change that to a 1. So now I have grid line 1 and A on my sheet. I can move those a little bit so I get them where I want them to be. Okay. And not that you can't move them on your sheet afterwards, but at least now it's in our template, right? So that when we start our project, we're going to know, okay, we have a 1A, so I can add 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Okay. When I'm just going to, this is where I would leave it, but now if this was a project that I just opened, if I clicked on 1 here and went to copy it, it should end up 2, right? And it does. If I clicked on this one and I went to copy it, it should end up B. And it didn't. It ends up 3. Okay, so you're still going to end up having to adjust that, because the last one I created was in numbers, and I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to delete those 2. So, okay.